Hello, and welcome to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway podcast. That's right. Your host and tour guide is Scott Prevett, a healer, hypnotist, and a magician. And your bus driver is Jason Gobelli, also a hypnotist, an entrepreneur, and a spiritual guide. Disclaimer, neither Jason, Scott, or any of our guests here today are licensed professional psychologists or psychiatrists. So please don't make any changes to any medication or treatments that you are currently on based on the conversation that you hear here today. Just hop on the bus and enjoy the ride. Trip with us on the Inner Revelation bus. That's right.
Hi, I'm Jason. Welcome back to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway. We are excited today. We got a great guest. We got Dr. Charles Rothschild. Yes, he's coming and we're excited to have him. Dr. Carl, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for waking me up. If I was low energy there, now I'm not. Thank you.
Great. Welcome. We're glad to have you on the show. We're excited to have you here. And basically, we're ready to travel down your highway. Are you ready to go?
Absolutely.
Okay, so first question.
It all started in 1972. I was a junior at Stony Brook University, which is a very good college out in New York. And I was a big science nut. I mean, I was really into biology and I won awards and all kinds of stuff, but I couldn't see how that was going to translate into a career until someone introduced me to something that is 3 notches below voodoo, and that's chiropractic. I mean, it was not well thought of, but it piqued my interest, and I started exploring, and I contacted a lot of chiropractors throughout the country. And, I never found one that didn't love what they were doing. And that's what I wanted. I was my version of a hippie back then, which meant that I was more interested in getting people well, or I should say helping people, than I was about money. I didn't mind making money, but that was not going to be my focus. And when I talked to these chiropractors and hearing their dedication and their love for what they were doing, I wanted that. So in 1978, I became a chiropractor and I loved it. I mean, I was having a lot of fun. I was relatively successful. I was able to communicate. I mean, it had everything for me. I could educate, I could treat, I could travel around the country to educate people about this. And I mean, I was just loving it. And then about 20 years into my practice, so I've been in practice for 48 years. And about 28 years ago, I was introduced to red light therapy. And I thought it was a bunch of hooey, to be honest with you. There was a doctor that handed me what looked like a flashlight. And he said, I want you to use this in your practice and help me change the world. And I've never thought anything was dumber than that. I'm going to flash a light. I mean, remember, I'm a wise guy from New York. I know everything, I thought. And there I am being introduced to light therapy. And he's telling me if I shine this light on people, it's going to make a difference. And it did. It did. It was incredible. I mean, I wasn't as immediate as it is now, because that device 28 years ago was a small fraction of the power that we are currently have. But even still, we had some reasonably good results. And and so then the world of red light therapy, by the way, I'm considered one of the pioneers since I was one of the first ones involved. I also wrote the book that really, if you want to get a book on red light therapy, it's called Illuminated Healing. I don't make a dime. The profits go to charity. But it's really a great treatise, a really good study on the whole thing about red light therapy, a modern study. And I'm going to tell you some stories that some of you are not going to believe. So at any rate, there I am getting involved with working with this technology, and it was getting stronger over the years, and it got better over the years. And then about 15 something years ago, it was discovered that there was an element of light that actually could help shrink fat cells. In other words, help with weight loss. And what's more popular than weight loss in this country? It's almost nothing. I mean, our practitioners, when they market weight loss, and the way that it's marketed is such a beautiful thing, because it's natural, and there's no damage. You're not putting anything in the body that doesn't belong there, and you're not yanking anything out that does belong there. And that's what most medicine and most technology is about, has a lot of side effects. Now, I'm talking about a technology that I'm discussing with you that has zero side effects. And so here's how it works for fat loss. Because it's so simple, I can just tell you that real quick. They thought originally that this element of light would actually liquidate or melt the fat, which it doesn't. What they discovered is that there's an element of this light that actually helps to change the fat cell walls temporarily. It only lasts a few hours. And in that period of time, as those fat cells are exposed to this light, it actually helps to some of the contents, to leak out into the surrounding tissue. And then with some unique protocols that we use, we move that fat away from the fat cells and eventually to the liver for either use or elimination. And it works. It absolutely works. So when I saw that it could do that, I said, okay, I'm going to take this to another level. And I started manufacturing equipment. And we were manufacturing pads and panels, and we're still involved with lasers. And it was wonderful. We were having a lot of great success, but healing as well as fat loss. But then something happened to all of us, and that's COVID. And our practitioners were asking me, is there a way that I can create a device that would cut down the amount of physical contact between the patient and the provider? So we came up with the bed. If you can see that, my hand disappears, but the bed is right there. Now this is version 9. So I'm talking about the first model that we had that many years ago. And the only reason we created it is the patient can get in and out of bed themselves. You don't need staff. So even today, if somebody gets our bed, they don't need extra staff. It's just the patient gets, on the first visit, is instructed with their one finger, they press the on button, they get in the bed, they get out of the bed, they get out of the office. That's it. And so it's very simple. I mean, in chiropractic, there are techniques that can take years to learn. This one takes minutes to learn. And so the patient gets in and gets out and they leave. And we just did this as a substitute for what we had produced up to that point, not realizing what we were doing. And what we were doing is we were bathing the whole body at the same time. And when you bathe the whole body at the same time, that's when the miracles start happening. And when I'm talking about miracles, I'm talking about anything you can think of, any condition you can think of. Not only the whole aesthetic world, so the skin's going to look great, hair restoration, skin from head to toe, by the way. Fine lines and wrinkles are going to fade. And so the person's going to look and feel younger. So it's the beauty industry, the fitness industry, the entire health industry, and athletes, which I'm going to go into detail. But, I can just tell you now that if an athlete gets in our bed before their activity or their workout or whatever, they're going to perform much better. And then if they get in the bed again, either that night or the next morning, they will recover from that activity much faster. So we're able to extend athletes' careers. So we're working with some professional NBA teams, basketball teams. We're working with the Olympic centers where they're finding, and these are kids, you don't realize who's doing the running and the jumping and the pole vaulting. They're between 16 and maybe 25 years old, but usually younger than that. And so there are a bunch of kids who have dedicated their lives in a different way than almost anybody else. They're going to spend many, many hours of their life training for the Olympics. And these kids get in the bed earlier in the day. They do their thing, whatever that is. And normally the next morning they would wake up without using the bed. They would wake up a mess. I mean, it was difficult to get out of bed because they were physically exhausted from the day before. But when they use the bed, the thing that we hear across the board is that they feel like starting fresh, like they call it fresh as a daisy. They're starting as fresh as you can be. And so their workouts are much better and their games are much better. So we have some high-end clientele, professional athletes that have our bed or getting our bed because they want to not only extend their career, but they want to perform better. So anyhow, I was talking about all the different industries that would benefit having this in their business. So at any rate, there we are. Some of the examples that I want to give you that we didn't anticipate this, but let me give you an example. And I use this example when I do lectures. I say, what would you do? And I want you to, if you are a health practitioner, good. If you're not, pretend you are. What would you do if someone called you up and said that they're having a heart attack once, if not twice a week? I hadn't heard of that before. How's he still alive, right? Well, 15 years ago, give or take, his heart started failing. And about 12 years ago, it got so bad that he was having heart attacks once, if not twice a month. So at that point, they implanted a defibrillator into his chest. So every time he dies or died, it would bring him back to life. And by the time we meet him, he had died hundreds of times. And you can imagine, again, it was once or twice a month. By the time we meet him, it's twice a week. So he was fading. I mean, he probably didn't have a year left to live. And he was depressed. He used to be an athlete before this whole thing. So the practitioner calls me up and says, I don't even think I should treat him. I mean, he's having heart attacks. I don't want him having a heart attack in my office. Plus, he has a metal defibrillator. He has an electronic device in his chest. Is that contraindicated? The truth of the matter is there are basically no side effects. In the 50 years this technology has been studied, no side effects. You couldn't hurt somebody with this if you tried. And really no contraindications, certainly not metal, not electronics, because it's a light. And if you can walk in the room and turn on lights to the room and not pass out and die, you can get in our bed. Now, there is one contraindication, and that's not a real contraindication. It's a legal contraindication. And what it is pregnant women. If that baby's destined to come out abnormal, having nothing to do with our lights, nothing to do with anything we know of, if that baby comes out abnormal, they're going to want to sue anybody and everybody they can. And I tell everybody, let's just not be in that neighborhood until after she delivers. And then hopefully the baby's fine. And now you can treat her as much as you'd like. So getting back to the story, this guy gets in our bed for just 5 minutes. Now, normally a treatment is 12 minutes. 12 minutes is a dose. But I told the practitioner, who was so nervous to even have him there in the first place, I said, stay in the room the whole time and only treat him for 5 minutes. And that guy went home that night, the patient. And that was 2 years ago, give or take. And he has not had a heart attack since. He's had more treatment, no more heart attacks. And everything has come back to life. Every organ, every gland, every tissue in his body is back to life. One thing he says, now I'm going to be sending you a whole bunch of videos and good quality stuff that you can pass around to your audience. But he said specifically what he couldn't believe is that his energy is absolutely through the roof. And he was dying. He was a mess. I mean, he would talk about before getting treated that when he would walk around the block, he couldn't make it around the block. And he would watch now this is his word, not mine. He would watch the little old ladies with their walkers zooming past him relatively to what he could do because he was such a mess. And now he's running. Now he's fine. It's hard to believe. And I'm going to go over why and how this works, but I want to instruct you guys in a few things. One, I want you to learn about our YouTube channel. If you want to see phenomenal videos, go to the YouTube channel, which is at Trifecta Light Official. And so when you go to YouTube, you put in the search line, you put in at Trifecta Light Official. Now I'm going to be sending you these links and stuff. In fact, I'm going to send you something that's called the digital brochure. And if you guys go through the brochure, you're going to see tons and tons of wonderful information, including the YouTube channel. And then you'll see, if you go to the YouTube channel, you're going to see lovely, wonderful videos. But I'm going to also send you a whole set from an Excel spreadsheet, a whole set of even more intense videos. And I tell you this because we can't put everything on a website or on the YouTube channel because the FDA will think we're making claims, which we're not. But if I set it aside in a separate Excel spreadsheet and not really make claims with it, then I can send that out to you. So you'll see Steve that had 40 years of Lyme disease, and see what happens to him. That's one of those unbelievable. I mean, we have a lot of unbelievable results, but that's one of the ones I love because of he had 40 years of Lyme disease and it completely destroyed his life. Completely. He got contracted when he was 12. We don't meet him until he's in his 50s. And you got to watch that video. Then, of course, there's the Arnett video, is the one I described, that was having heart attacks regularly. And just one after another is just spectacular. But another one that I would recommend is Jessica's video. Now, Jessica, when I called her, she had emailed me about how Lyme disease had destroyed her life. So, and how red light had completely helped her. But when I contacted her and we actually started the testimonial video, I had no idea that she had 16 very serious issues, including 20 years of diarrhea only, which that's a killer unto itself. She had 3 forms of psoriasis. She had plaque psoriasis, glutate psoriasis, and psoriatic arthritis. And the psoriatic arthritis would mean that some morning she'd wake up and her toes, they called it dactylitis, and her toes would be black and blue, swollen, and very painful. And after 2 sessions, that stopped. And all of her 16 issues have stopped. One of the issues she had was uveitis. Now, uveitis is a swelling in the eye. And so much so her swelling was normally, there is some pressure in the eye and her pressure should be around 10. And her pressure was over 180. So she was suffering. And gone untreated, she'd probably lose sight in that eye. So the treatment by the medical profession is to inject her right into her eye. And each injection costs $5,000, billed to the insurance, but not all of it was paid. But injection in her eye. And like an idiot, I said, well, what was that like? You got to watch the video, because after I asked her, I go, well, what do you think? She loved it? But you got to see this video about how she spent much of her life going to doctors, taking drugs, taking injections, taking all kinds of stuff. And now she doesn't need any of that anymore. She had kidney stones. Now, one kidney stone could be unbelievably painful. She had hundreds of kidney stones as a reaction and a side effect to a drug that she had been taking in the past for migraines. And they have since taken that off the market. But she's still having unbelievable amount of kidney stones. So I'll let you guys watch that video. And I think you'll learn a lot about this kind of stuff. So at any rate, so we're talking about the YouTube channel, but now I'm going to challenge each of you to take 6 visits. I want you each to try 6 visits. Now, I'm not in practice, so I'm not inviting you to my office, but we have hundreds of offices all over the country. What I want you to do is to go to the trifectalight.com website. It's right there behind me. And when you go there, go to the Contact Us page. And on the left side of that page, you can try to find a location closest to you. So you put your information in there and we will research this and find the closest location. What I want you to do is to treat 6 visits. Now, why is that important? I want to prove to you, each of you, that within 6 visits, you're going to see a change if you have an issue. Now, if you feel fantastic, then don't bother. I mean, you can. I don't know if you'll see a difference. But the messier you are, the worse off you are, the more dramatic the change will be. And so we're talking about anything you can think of: Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, any autoimmune disease.
Cancer?
Kidney disease. Hold on, wait. Diabetes, heart issues, Lyme disease, skin issues, any musculoskeletal issue like bone, muscle, tendon, ligament, joints, anything like that. And then neuropathy. So then you always have a troublemaker in the class and they raise their hand and they go, what about cancer? So cancer is an interesting thing. In other countries where there are not so many attorneys, that's one of our big problems in our country, is we have too many attorneys and they're going to try to sue you for anything and everything possible. And cancer is like a garden that likes to grow little tumors here and there, having nothing to do with our lights. But if that happens, they're going to want to blame, just like with pregnant women, they're going to want to blame somebody for that. Also, cancer is a huge industry. I mean, billions and billions of dollars. And if anybody in that industry thinks that you or I are going to take a penny out of their bank account, they're not going to be happy. And so rather than have them come after us, I legally have to say, active cancer, we're not involved with. Now, if it's in remission or if it's been cured, no problem. And as a matter of fact, in one of the cancer institutes, we have our bed there with the agreement that it's for use for people because of the devastating effect of the chemotherapy and the radiation therapy. There's a goodly number of people that die from cancer, but not from the cancer, from the pneumonia that they get because their immune system has been shattered from the type of treatment that's used for them. And so they use the bed to recover their immune system and get rid of many of the symptoms that are associated with that. So that's my very long answer about cancer. But anything else? Like we had this one lady, and her big complaint, even though she had many complaints, but her biggest complaint from her Parkinson's was that when she went to church, she was embarrassed because she couldn't hold the Bible because her tremors were so severe. And after 2 weeks of treatment, the tremors were still there, but they were so mild, she was easily able to hold the Bible. So in general, what we're first looking for is a higher quality of life, not necessarily a full resolution of the issue that somebody may have. Many times there is a full resolution, but at minimum, what we're looking for is an absolute natural way of getting rid of some of the symptoms and improving that person's quality of life. That's what it's about. So I just want to, my whole focus on well-being and health is like a candle that burns really bright from the beginning all the way down to the bottom and then sputters out and dies. And that's not how it happens with many people. The last 10 or 20 years of some people's lives ain't so great. They're not mobile. Essentially, they're invalids. And that's not what I would want. I remember being in my office. Now I'm retired now from treating. But I would be there, and there were some people that would come to the office, and I would never say this out loud, but there were some people that I would think to myself, please God, don't let me wind up like that. Because they didn't take care of themselves. You know why people don't take care of themselves in some cases? They're not scared enough. You need to be scared. There are some people that are just right out motivated, but that's rare. But if you can get to realize what you're doing to yourself now, because you can hear in the background your 80-year-old self crying because you're not taking care of yourself when you're younger. And you just don't, I can do whatever, I can drink whatever, I can eat whatever, I don't have to exercise. Yes, you can get away with that, you think, when you're younger, but it's going to you're going to pay the toll later on in your life. So I've taken very good care of myself. I'm 73 years old. I stay active. I run. I do whatever I need to fight this battle. We all are in the same battle. And that battle is aging and death. And I'm not saying that anyone is going to be able to fight it completely, but you want to go gracefully and to do the best job you can with that. Yeah, we're all going to go, no question about it, but maybe you don't have to go with having the last several years of your life being not so great. So we talked about the YouTube channel. We talked about the website. Now, there's one more thing on that website. When you go to the trifectalight.com website, on the right side of that contact us page is an opportunity for you to find out whether this makes sense for you to include in your business. If you're in the health industry, fitness industry, beauty industry, weight loss industry, or if you're in the athletic world, you need this bed. And I'll tell you why. Especially, I talked about the athlete. The athlete using our bed will perform better than the guy next to you who's not. But in the health industry, it acts like a magnet. It draws so many more patients to your facility or clients to your facility, if it's beauty or hair or whatever. Estheticians will love this. And it will drive a lot more business to you, but also the people that are already part of your company will love signing up for this. And they usually, before the bed arrives, the people have dozens and dozens of people that are signed up to get in the bed as soon as it arrives. And I'm telling you, the kind of results that we're talking about are incredible. I want you to understand that it's not satisfied patients that refer. It's excited patients. And you're never going to see more excited people than you will with this bed. People that couldn't walk are walking. People that are losing their eyesight and now they won't go completely blind. People that are even depressed. There's a whole segment of this studies that they've done with this wonderful technology that it's been proven that it will help with emotions and psychologically. So we had this one lady, she hated her life. She was so depressed. And after 2 weeks of treatment, and she's continued treatment more, but after the first 2 weeks, she found something that she hadn't experienced in years. And that something is joy. And so for the first time in many years, she experienced joy. And she wrote me an email that said, essentially, if this is how normal people feel all the time, I can't believe I've been missing out all this time. So yeah, and she was in love with this technology. And people who are excited will refer a lot of business to your practice. Now, we include 32 things with the purchase. So that includes the training, the coaching. We actually assign a coach that will help you, a business coach that will help you on how to figure out how much do you charge and how do you collect the money and all those different things. So now what I want to do is I want to teach you guys I talked to you about how the fat loss worked, but now what I want to do is I want to teach you how it works in general for the healing aspect. But before I do that, do you have any questions before we continue?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions for you. So one, how much is this bed?
It averages about $1,500 a month to lease.
Oh, so it's a lease. Can you purchase it outright?
I'll tell you why we don't recommend that, but yes, you can. The 100% of a lease payment is tax deductible. So it's a complete write-off. A lease is considered like rent or utilities. It's a complete write-off. Now, on the last payment, it's a lease payment that converts immediately to purchase. So you own, after you pay the last payment, you own it.
Well, how many payments?
It's 5 years, 60 payments.
5 years, 60. Okay.
So the price of the bed is about $65,000, but that includes everything. Now, we do have a home use bed that's significantly less expensive, but it's not as robust for a business. And to give you some perspective, none of our doctors make, or any of our health practitioners, make less than 10 times return on investment, which ain't too bad. Again, remember, you don't need staff, so you're saving yourself there. Mm-hmm. And it's not a toy. I'm going to go over two things now after I answer your questions. One is, what should you look for in the right equipment for you? Of course, I'm going to tell you that the Trifecta Light Bed is by far the most superior device out there. But I'm also going to talk to you about how and why it works. But what other questions do you have?
Look, I want to talk about you, Dr. Carl, for a second. When did you, I know we're talking about the bed, but this is you. You're the maker of this and everything, and you're like one of the pioneers. When did you first have that moment like, aha, I'm made to help people. This is what I'm called to do.
Well, that I don't know. I told you I was a junior in Stony Brook University, and you know, my mom was tough, and she told me in front of other people that they heard this, is that she hopes I never go into business because I don't have the heart for it. I don't have the way we looked at business is, and as a healer, what I look for is to help people, and money comes after that. But I'm not a brutal business person, which I have I've been in business for nearly 50 years now, and I've witnessed some really people who are business people. Sometimes, I'm not saying every one of them, many of them are more interested in the end product, meaning money, than they are being ethical, being moral. And I know it sounds corny, but I don't like that. I'm not like that. So I wasn't built to be a businessman. So fortunately, I had a partner that helped me with some of that stuff. But at any rate, I don't know why I'm like, let me give you an example, just to get how corny I am. We had hedges in the front of our house. And my friends and I, we would take the leaves off and crack them. And I don't know why, fold them and play with them because you get the smell out of them. And my mother didn't want us to do that. So what my mother told me, now I was younger, she told me every time I do that, the hedge cries. And I never did it again. I'm a corny, kind of guy. I like animals. I like nature. And I would never hurt a soul if I could help it. I mean, if they were going to come at me, but I've never hit anybody. I'm just not like that. I don't raise my voice. So I don't know if I have to go through all this stuff about me, but
but this is nice. So you developed this technology. You wrote this book. You've done all of this stuff. It's amazing some of the work that you've done. My question: who helped shape you? Who were your mentors?
Well, I mean, obviously my parents helped. My father was like me. He was a terrible businessman. He was taking advantage all the time. And both my father and I, if we're walking down the street, it's like we have, a schmuck sign on our forehead, because if there's some homeless person or whatever, there could be a whole crowd, they'll come up to me. First of all, they'll come up to me. So almost every time. I have that sweet boy look, I guess. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer for. It's just inherent in my makeup. I'm not a business person. I like helping people.
That's wonderful, because that's why we're here, because we like the fact that you like helping people. Now, do you have a family, wife, and kids in that?
Yeah.
Are they all involved? How do they feel about the bed?
Oh, well, my wife and I are intimately involved with development of the bed. She helps a lot with that. She's also a chiropractor, and yeah, so she's been my business partner, to be honest with you. As far as the kids are concerned, they're not yet thinking about that. They got too many other things in their lives. We do treat them, we do take care of them, but what happens with kids up until maybe 25 years old, they think they're invincible, and they do whatever and eat whatever. We eat very well, but I never drink alcohol, and I've never smoked, and I don't eat dairy, and I pretty much stay away from gluten. So I'm pretty careful about what I eat. I don't eat junk, and I don't eat fried foods and things like that. I like to eat. My wife and I are both good eaters, but we try to stay as healthy as we can.
Nice, nice. So what else would you like to tell us about what you're doing? What's your plan for the future here with this? Where are you going to take this?
Well, hold on. I think it's important that I tell you guys how it works, because this is the essence of why it's so beautiful. I talked about fat loss, and that's a very simplistic issue, but I want to talk to you about the whole healing thing. And what it comes down to is your body is made up of tissues, and these tissues are made up of cells. And every cell in your body has components in it that includes the nucleus, it includes other things, but most importantly in this discussion, it includes a thing called the mitochondria. Now, when I went to school, we were taught that there was one mitochondria in every cell in your body, and the mitochondria is what they call the powerhouse of the body. That means that the mitochondria makes this thing. The mitochondria is the reason why you and I breathe oxygen and eat food to manufacture a very important molecule called ATP. And this ATP is the energy currency of the body, and it's the whole reason that we function at all and heal at all. So if you if your body underproduces ATP, you're going to suffer. And that's called mitochondrial dysfunction with a mitochondrial system. And it's always been assumed that as you get older, the mitochondrial system is going to fail, and that will lead to disease and eventually death. But what we're learning now is that we can reverse that. And so now let me explain to you. Again, the mitochondria being critical. And also, when I went to school, we learned that there was one mitochondria in every cell, but that's not true. And the heart, which has the highest demand for energy, has over 5,000 mitochondria in each heart cell. And so much so that the mitochondria is so prevalent in your body that it makes up 10 of your body weight. And nobody, if you think about it, you got to really think about it. You're telling me the mitochondria makes up 10% of your body weight, and that's taking into consideration the competition, so to speak, of bone and hair and skin and blood and all that other stuff. And yet, and still, the mitochondria makes up 10% of your body weight. And that gives you an idea how prevalent it is, how important it is. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it. So now what they found with these people that are having problems with their mitochondrial dysfunction is that what we learned is that there are certain elements of light that can actually stimulate the mitochondria to come back to health. And you know what that light is? It's called the sun. And there are elements of sunlight that are unbelievably healing. But they're weak. I mean, it's not going to have such a huge impact to make the kind of changes that I've already described. What we've done is we've taken the sunlight, not the UV light, not lights, colors that are going to be problematic. We've taken red light, and we've taken a part of the infrared world called near infrared. And so as long as I'm on the word infrared, there's no such thing as just infrared. There's near infrared and far infrared. And far infrared is heat. That's like infrared saunas, infrared beds, infrared whatever. That's about generating heat. That's it. It doesn't make any long-term changes. But what they learned was that the near infrared and part of the red will actually stimulate the mitochondria to come back to health. And that's what we have in our bed. We've integrated 2 elements of red and 2 elements of near infrared and magnify them and multiply them throughout the bed, both top and bottom, so that you're fully engulfed and we cover the entire and bathe the entire body with this glorious light. And that's what makes these changes. We didn't have those changes before when we had other equipment that wasn't full body. So what we did was we magnified the sunlight that we described thousands and thousands and thousands of times and then drive it deep into the person's body to make these unbelievable changes. Now, in the world of infrared, just to remind you, there is no such word as just infrared. So stick to either far infrared, which is the heat, or as I described, that near infrared, which is the glorious wavelength that has such a huge impact on your body. And so essentially what we've done is driven in this beautiful light that makes the reason for all this wonderful effect. So when someone gets in the bed, they keep their eyes closed and their mouth open. We don't wear goggles. Someone will say, well, is it dangerous? In the 50 years they studied this technology, there has never been a recorded side effect. You could not hurt somebody with this if you tried. Now, I already talked about the contraindications, meaning that we kind of stay away from pregnancy and cancer. Other than that, you can get in there with metal. You can get it in there. You could have had surgery the day before for a hip replacement, titanium rods and whatever. They're not contraindicated. In fact, the only contraindications I said are legal ones. So when someone buys one of these beds, we include what we call business in a box. And that's where I talk to you about the training and the coaching, but also all the marketing and all the stuff that person will need to be successful. So when they go to the trifectalight.com website, go to the contact us, and on the right side of that page, I want you to check out and see if it makes sense to incorporate this into your practice. And I guarantee you that in 3 months after you've gotten our bed, that you're going to call me up and you're going to thank me, because that's how impactful this thing is for people in general. So yes, I'm nuts. I am so in love with this bed. This is what my staff put together for me. I don't know if you can see that. You see what it says?
Yeah, get in the bed.
That's my attitude. It's like, it couldn't hurt. So you're going to try 6 visits, contact us to make sure we can find a location closest to you. Try it for 6 times. And if you don't see any change, if you have an issue, if you don't see any change, I would be in shock. The chances of us helping you is unbelievable. So we have the eyes closed and mouth open. And even if you opened your eyes a little bit, the reason why not to keep your eyes open the whole time is because it's a very bright light. Would you stare into a flashlight that's right here? You wouldn't do that. So you just keep your eyes closed. The light can easily get through the eyelid. It can get through your skull and get to the brain. So it can get to your eyelid. And if you can think of anything in the eye, including macular degeneration, macular edema, floaters, cataracts, glaucoma or uveitis, as I described before, the results are spectacular. Now, I'll be sending you these videos. I really hope you guys will watch some of these testimonial videos. They're spectacular. So with that said, I just wanted to go over one more thing. Now, there's a lot of junk out there. When you produce a great product, a great purse, a great sunglasses, a great technical thing, there's a country out there that will, within a year, steal your idea and come out with a cheap knockoff of it. And people don't realize that just because a piece of junk looks like our bed doesn't mean it's the same thing. What makes our bed so unique is, number one, more important than anything else, are these lights. They're professional medical grade lights that burn strong but not hot. Remember, heat is the enemy. What heat does is it dilates blood vessels, brings more blood to the surface of the body, and that would block the penetration of light. So all these years, what our goal has always been, and we've succeeded, is to get stronger and stronger without heat. So that's rule number one. The second thing, as I already described, you want full body coverage. I don't mind people getting masks and helmets and all that. They're nice. But if you want the miraculous changes, what I call the fountain of youth, you need a full body approach. The next thing is that canopy, as it comes down onto your body, you want it as close to your body as possible, on your body. Most of the canopies that are built out there have a very high arcing dome. And the reason is because their lights are so hot, because they have inferior lights, that they can't have it right on your body. Now, why do you want it right on your body? As you move away from the body with your lights, you're going to lose power exponentially. You don't want that. The next thing is that you have the capability of customizing the treatment. So someone who's 80 pounds is not going to get the same dose as someone who's 400 pounds. Your 400 pounder can absorb a lot of this. They have a lot of flesh. They can absorb a lot of this energy without getting hot. Whereas an 80 pounder with no flesh, practically, we would need to tone it down so that they get the right dose for them without generating heat. The next thing is the ability to pulse the wave. You want that ability to pulse the wave so that the person, some of you guys have heard of PEMF, different types of frequencies and things like that, but there's a thing called resonating frequencies. Tissues in your body resonate with different frequencies. And the fact that we can resonate the frequency or pulse the frequency in the light, that enhances our results. And it has helped our results significantly. And the last thing that I'm thinking about is that it can't be a toy. There are toys out there where you can plug into any outlet. This is a serious piece of medical equipment. So we include the outlet and the instructions to the electrician to get you a 220 volt outlet that's dedicated for the bed. It's not expensive to include that, but it's necessary to make sure you don't get a cheap Chinese knockoff. Anyhow, do you have any questions now?
Nice, wonderful. No, it's been a pleasure. We've loved traveling down your magical psyche highway today, but I do have the one big question for you. I'll post, by the way, for all of our viewers out there and everything, we will post all those links in his description on the bottom of this. So you'll have the links to that in the description here. But my question for you, Dr. Carl, the big question, the final question, the big question of the day. What are your words of wisdom for our viewers?
I think fear. I want you to be scared enough that you start taking care of yourself. You know what percentage, you know that people come to my office, I'm not in practice now, but when they came to my office, they already were more health oriented than the ones that don't go to a chiropractor. And yet and still, when I would review their habits and talk to them, the kind of food that people eat, the kind of drink that they have, it startles me. I don't mean you to suffer. You know, everyone thinks that, you know, if you watch enough television, you'll see what the idea of health and well-being, and I should say fun, is drinking a lot and, you know, having party time. And yes, you should party, but I would limit alcohol tremendously And I would limit sugar. I mean, sugar kills more people maybe than anything else out there. People don't realize it. So at any rate, I just suggest get fearful about what your future is going to be like, and wind up that when you're 80 years old, you're still vibrant. You still can move around and have fun.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my thought of the day.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Dr. Carl, it's been a pleasure traveling down your highway. We've certainly enjoyed the trip. And thank you for coming on the show. For our viewers out there, we're glad you're here. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, follow us, share it with your friends. If you like us, give us a thumbs up. If you think we're jerks, we don't care. Just give us a thumbs down. We're just glad you're here, and we hope to see you next week. Thanks for coming.
Wow, what a trip. Thanks for taking that journey with us today. Please like us, share us, and enlighten us with your views of the topics we drove into today. We appreciate you and love reading your comments. Thanks again, and we hope to see you back on the bus next week. That's right.